Okay. So I just wanted to do a quick introduction. This is, how many have we done, Robin? These virtual
Oh,
lunch and learns?
we've been doing this for
24th
about,
one?
yeah, we've been doing it for a year or two, so it's been a
Right.
while.
Yeah, close to 24, virtual lunch and learns. And we welcome you, both Noel and Knussen. Um, we are uh, most of these events, we record them, so and then we post it on the YouTube video. And we are very grateful that Color Coded Labs, you're going to talk about it, and we wanted to learn more because we have a lot of, LGBTQ professionals in tech that do want a space like Color Coded Labs to come in and, get trained in the coding and everything else. So the fact that we have it in Central Ohio is an amazing thing. But tell us more about it.
Yes, I'm excited too. So I'm Kdusan. I'm a program director at Color Coded Labs, and I graduated from the program myself. So it's like firsthand experience going through it. It was a great experience for me. So it was a no-brainer to come back and try to help improve the program as much as I could and offer a perspective from someone who has been through it themselves. But Color Coded Labs, for people who don't know about our technical program, is a full stack JavaScript bootcamp. We run for about 19 weeks long, teaching full stack JavaScript, but more, I would say, from my perspective, front end heavy. And so, what we do is teach people who have not been exposed to any coding language. We're very beginner friendly, and we're aimed at bringing people of color and minorities and being an inclusive space for people who want to try and break into the IT and technical industry. Some people come out and they're not full stack developers and they want to do something else, but that exposure alone will allow them to look into opportunities they never had considered before. And I think the most important part that sets us aside from other technical programs is that we're catered and designed for the working adult to make this transition. We have virtual classes. We're only Monday through Friday, 6 to 9 p.m. So you can have your 9 to 5 or any job that you need throughout the day, but it does require you to put in a lot of time outside of those hours to make up for um, not going to a full-time boot camp. So there is that aspect of it, but it gives the people the autonomy to like dictate their schedules and work around real life things, and also provide for their family in the meantime. And also, and this is not for every cohort, but when we can secure funding, we do support people on their tuitions. So you don't have to come out of pocket in the beginning. Sometimes we will cover the full tuition. So it's it's a wonderful opportunity to be able to go through a program like that that's setting you up for success at little to no cost to you. You just need your dedication and your time because learning a new skill, as we know, is not easy. But we do have rock stars that go through these programs, like Noel, who we are going to be hearing talk about his endeavor with Sidewalk Sidekick. But I would like to say that Noel, coming into the program, was already involved in Columbus Code and Coffee. If you guys haven't heard of it, it's a really great community base where technologists can come together and talk about different products. And he's been very consistent with that. And it's built a sense of community even within the Color Coded Labs ecosystem and alumni base. So we're really happy to have had Noel come through our program. He did amazing throughout the program and helped people. He used to tutor people when they were struggling. So he wasn't new to it. But again, like I said, we are very beginner friendly and we do a good job of like screening out the people that are gonna actually make a positive impact and create a safe space for learning. So I think that anybody that's interested and just wants to see and try something, Color Coded Labs is a great place to start. And there's other technical programs here too, like Perscalas and Tech Elevator. So you can check those out too and see what best fits for you. But yeah. That's about us. And if anybody has any questions, they can reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm Kdusan Araya. I post on Zettabytes or like share their stories a couple times. So you'll see me around. But I'm really pleased to introduce Noel, who will be talking about a deeper understanding of like pedestrian travel challenges and discover how travel solutions can be adapted into our environments, as well as like data collection and community impact with these type of solutions. So I'm excited to introduce Noel so he can talk a little bit more about Sidekick and show you guys what he has been working on.
Before Noel gets started, can I ask a quick question?
Absolutely. Yes.
When is the next cohort starting? Has the application date already passed for that? If you just wanted to tell, the people who is going to view the YouTube video and, which cohort number is this?
So yeah, those are all great questions. Thank you for bringing that up. So we are currently in session for cohort 7, and we are taking applications for cohort 8. We plan for it to start first week of August. So all you have to do is go to colorcodedlabs.com and apply, and then we will reach out to you. The formal process is we have you apply, we'll send you an assessment. It's like an interest assessment, like an aptitude test. And if you pass that, we'll go ahead and schedule an interview. And then we'll let you know what funding we've secured for that round before you make the decision. So that's our formal process. And again, we take about 3 to 4 cohorts a year. So even if you miss this one, we have other ones starting a couple of months after that. So, and then cohort 7 graduates in September. So that'll be a great opportunity for people to look and speak to the people who've been through the program if they want to hear from people firsthand.
And do you help also with placement? So go ahead.
Yeah, we have over 50 hiring partners. We want them to be exposed to the opportunities, but we don't necessarily guarantee any placement. So it really is up to the candidate and their skills that they come out of it, but we will put them in opportunities like volunteer opportunities or put them in front of our hiring partners and introduce them to people. And any opportunity where an employer will approach, and this happens often, Color Coded Labs will pick our best 5 people that we think are the most active on LinkedIn, that are very serious about their craft and their skill that they've learned. And we'll put them in front of them and interview, and some will be placed and someone will have to find other opportunities. But I just want to be 100% honest about that.
Cool. Mm-hmm. With that, Noel, you're up.
All right. Thank you both very much. Let me just share real fast.
While he's doing that, I just want to say thank you, Rini, for this opportunity and showcasing these great solutions and giving us a platform to talk about this. So I appreciate the time.
Absolutely. Anytime. Mm-hmm. Color Coded Lab has been very good to us. So yeah. This is always, giving it forward. And Noel, can you, as you pull this up, can you also reintroduce yourself in your own words as to who you are? How did you get involved with, different activities? And then tell us everything about this Sidewalk Sidekick.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's a very good segue into my first slide. So, hey, all. My name is Noel Castillon. I am an English teacher turned software engineer. I'm based here in Columbus, Ohio. I wear a lot of hats. I organize Columbus Code and Coffee. I work a 9 to 5 at a company called Data Robot, and I also founded Sidewalk Sidekick, which I'll spend a lot more time talking about over the course of this presentation. I guess I'd also just like to give a quick shout out to CCL for being especially good to me. I think there's a considerable amount of care that goes into everyone who leads that program. And I was very fortunate to come upon it and to go through it. And I can vouch for the work that Katie and Doug and everyone there does. They really helped a lot in securing me my position at my current company, as well as putting me in conversation with a lot of other hiring managers and teams that were interested in me. And so I really do want to emphasize that that's a program that really cares and that wants you to succeed. And that if you are interested, just know that you're in good hands. And if you're interested about that, feel free to reach out to me as well, or on LinkedIn or wherever else you can find me. Um, but back to me. I wear all these things, and I'll talk about Sidewalk Sidekick, but I need to emphasize before we get into anything else that I am disabled. And I bring that up because I think about the concept of embodiment a lot, which is essentially just like how does the body that I occupy affect the way that I navigate the world? How does it affect the way that I read the world? How does it affect the way that other people interface with me? And I want you to think about that as I talk about Sidewalk Sidekick. I want you to kind of read into me and figure out like what parts of a disabled person may have informed the kind of product that I've been building. And I also invite you guys to perhaps have an introspective moment and consider how does the body that I occupy, in my experience, affect the way that I navigate the world around me. Additionally, this seems like a pretty small and casual group. If you guys just want to stop me and ask a question or throw it up in the chat, please do at any time. Now, this is a talk in 3 parts. Firstly, it is disabled dude diatribe. I'm not going to apologize for my use of alliteration. I came from the poetry capital of the world, Fresno, California, and so this is in my blood. That's just the consequences of your actions for giving me a platform to speak on. But in disabled dude diatribe, I'm going to talk about a lot of the background experiences that inform the Sidewalk Sidekick and what exactly I'm trying to solve with this product. Secondly, it's a sidekick for the sidewalk, wherein I'll talk more about the specifics of the product and what I'm trying to do there and what I've been putting in front of people and trying to gauge their interest in. And then finally, I'll put a neat little bow on the whole conversation and neat, now what? Wherein I'll talk about my findings and perhaps give you guys some nugget to go forward with. My lore continued. Again, I'm super disabled, which comes with some perks. I get pretty good parking sometimes. I get priority boarding on airplanes, which some people have to pay for, not me. Now it stops being glamorous when I need to enter spaces that are generally built for folks on 2 legs, for able-bodied people. And now inaccessibility that's a chasm, that's a grand ocean, and I could get into that, but we'd be here longer than an hour. So for the purposes of our conversation, we're just going to be looking at inaccessibility in the space of pedestrian travel and how that affects how that affects disabled people and able-bodied people alike. So let's just establish some kind of a foundation for our current landscape. Firstly, America, super car-centric, not big news. But to throw out some statistics, most Americans drive to work. In Ohio, we typically drive around 23 minutes to and from work. Now, this is all very normal. We don't really bat an eye about bumper-to-bumper traffic and things like that. But let's let's break that down and kind of consider what goes into this norm that we've established. For one, there's a considerable amount of capital that goes into being able to drive a car. Cars aren't cheap. It's not cheap to buy one. It's not cheap to maintain one. So there's a barrier there. And then additionally, there is an assumed level of able-bodiedness that goes into driving a car. It assumes that you have faculties over arms, legs, sight, things like that. And so that's a lot of assumption for Americans, considering that disabled people take up a quarter of the population. And so I think we have to, when we're talking about driving, we also have to think about accessibility in relation to that, and that it's oftentimes a very inaccessible experience. Now, you can do a lot to trick out a car and make it accessible. My own car it has a ramp that pops out the side, and I can get in and I can transfer in the driver's seat, and I can do that, and that it works. But it also comes at a premium. We call this the crip tax, wherein if you want access to things that able-bodied people may have more readily available, you just have to pay a lot more for it. And so for vehicles specifically, that can cost a 20,000 to 45,000 more than a car would normally go for. And so that's just an even bigger capital barrier. And so that just sucks. Like you can do it, but it sucks. And if you straight up just can't do that, well, now you have to look at other options. What else is available to you? Now, the next logical thought is take the bus, right? Bus is an option. For what it's worth, like we've done a pretty good job of trying to make code accessible to a lot of different communities, and we're striving towards making that a more equitable experience. At present, it's really hard to make use of public transit, especially in Columbus. There are some cities who have done it very well, but Columbus definitely has a lot to get into, and I want to paint a picture for that. Now, once upon a winter, my radiator exploded. Oops, excuse me, that's out of order. That's okay. And now that sucks, and it was kind of like a Joker moment for me, where it just left a really profound impact on me because it was just wildly inconvenient, and oftentimes dangerous. And the lesson I took away from that was that car-dependent infrastructure often happens at the expense of pedestrian safety. Now,
Absolutely.
what I mean by that, what I mean by that is more of a backdrop. I need to get from the University District to Polaris. Normally a pretty straightforward drive, and looking at Google Maps, it looks like a pretty straightforward bus route too. So I think, okay, this sucks, but car's towed away. I'm safe, thankfully. So let's get into it. First leg of the trip is University District. I have to catch the Coda, which okay, Coda's everywhere because it's a very high foot traffic area. I can be thankful for it having to service university students who need to walk to and from classrooms and dorms and things like that. And so it's an okay experience. The only thing that doesn't make it okay is that I have to navigate a lot of uneven pavement. Okay for me because I'm using a power wheelchair at the time, which has a lot of horsepower. If I was using a manual chair at the time, it would be more precarious because it doesn't take a lot to tip over a chair. A small rock could do it. On top of that, there is also a considerable amount of construction, which you do find in more urbanized areas, which is good that they're trying to maintain these buildings and sidewalks. But it does suck when you're in a wheelchair and you can't just step off the curb to go around. You have to find a whole roundabout way, and so not fun. I do get to my Coda stop eventually, and it's okay. But dang, did it really need to be so hard? Last leg of the trip, which is where I really snapped, was once I landed in the Polaris area. Now I have a mile to get from bus stop to my home. And what I found was egregious. I found a lot of gaps in the sidewalk network. I was fortunate enough that my bus stop put me on a piece of pavement where I could get to a ramp curb cutout. But if you look around the Polaris area, oftentimes it would just plop you in the middle of the grass. And then what? So I was fortunate enough there. Now I'm trying to get home. I encounter a lot of gaps in the sidewalk network. What this ultimately leads to is me having to travel along the bank of Polaris Parkway next to 50-mile-an-hour traffic right beside me. It's a ultimately very uncomfortable and frankly scary experience. There were moments where I could have come up onto the curb, but it had just snowed. And so there was a bunch of snow having been plowed and packed right where the ramp curb cutout would be. It was about a mile, not a mile, it was about a foot high and it felt like a mile. Uh, and so that was on an option for me as well. So I had to stay on the road longer. Now, thankfully, I do get home and that's all fine and dandy. Except it's not fine and dandy. Why did I have to go through all of that? I feel like there were so many things that made this an uncomfortable and inaccessible experience. And so what I'm left with is I've identified three problems from this scenario. One is that navigating as a pedestrian is difficult and dangerous without a private passenger vehicle. Two is that alternative forms of transportation oftentimes, while well-intentioned, can be very inaccessible. And thirdly, tools for navigating as a pedestrian are inconsistent and at the very least dangerous. Google Maps said, you can totally go down here. And I tried to go down there and I absolutely could not. And so diatribe done. Let's take a big breath in, big one out. Alrighty. And so this is where I'm sat with, I'm seething, in other words. Now I go through this whole experience. Mind you, this is before I made any kind of transition into tech. I was still an English teacher at the time. But I was trying to figure out like what could have made this better. Like there were a lot of things about this whole experience that could have been avoidable had I had some foresight about where is there construction, where is there a gap in the sidewalk network, so on and so forth. And this brings us to what I would kind of sit on, conceptualize as ways, but for pedestrians. It's my solution to the things that I experienced. And Sidewalk Sidekick it's a product of Give Back Hack, and I'm very appreciative of the folks at Give Back Hack and the team that I went through the weekend with. They did a lot to help give this shape, and I'm going to throw a lot of things that I worked on over the Give Back Hack weekend to you all because it really was affirming and figuring out like, oh, people do want a product like this. Now, over the Give Back Hack weekend, we put out a series of surveys. A lot of times, it was just trying to figure out like, would someone want a product like this, like Sidewalk Sidekick, like a ways but for pedestrians. And what we found, much to our delight, was that yes, people absolutely would like a product like this. And a lot of times, they were citing things that I had thought and that I had experienced in the story that I just recounted, where it's like, yeah, I super want to get outside. I want to get outside for health reasons. I want to get outside for environmental reasons, but I can't because I just don't feel safe with high mile traffic around me. that oftentimes, like if I'm going out with my kid in a stroller, it just, I don't know, the pavement's weird and I don't feel good about that. I don't feel good about letting my kid play outside. And so they're affirming a lot of that, and I really do appreciate that. And they give us a lot of momentum going forward. On top of that, we're also trying to figure out like, okay, we're trying to compare this to ways, but do people use like reporting features and things like that? And a lot of people said yes, that they do use it, or if they didn't say yes, they said they would love to use it. However, it's just some barriers when it comes to the UI and trying to quickly uh, put in an issue that they encounter while en route. And so we have two big wins. One is that people would use this and that they are enthused at the idea of reporting issues in a service like this. Now, let's talk about kind of what I've conceived for in terms of like a user flow and how this all comes together. There's three steps to this. I come in threes. First step is I gather data. And so we collect Sidewalk related issues that comes from open source data sets, that comes from the Mid-Ohio Regional Planning Committee, and it comes from Project Sidewalk, who has a presence here in Columbus, really great project. A lot of these folks have just done a lot of the light work in terms of gathering issues on pedestrian data, pedestrian travel, and have centralized that. However, they hadn't put that into any kind of proper end product, any kind of user end product. And so that's where I really wanted to step in. That's what step two is, whereas we relay data via an app and a dashboard. And so two parts of this. First part is end user app, navigation app, wherein we show our users pedestrian friendly routes. Beneath that, we also have a dashboard plans for putting this in front of city planners, wherein they get access to all the data that we've collected from our users. And then they can make more informed decisions about where can they go in, where can they make decisions, and where are people seeing the most amount of problems. On top of this, pedestrian-friendly routes and user-reported issues are sort of have this symbiotic relationship, wherein as a pedestrian is en route, they can spot issues and confirm or deny whether that is an issue or not. And ultimately, what this cultivates is safer trips for pedestrians and improved infrastructures. That was a lot. That was kind of innocuous. So let me put the mock-up in front of you. Let's make this more real. So here we have someone building a route between two waypoints. You see that it's been drawn in front of them. While en route, they can report an issue. Here we have an egregious use of an obstacle closure and construction. We submit that. That gets bumped up into our database. While en route, you can see someone reported an obstacle here. Is it still there? It absolutely still is. Thank you for that. Right. And while en route, if you spot a location that you may want to stop at, you can get more informed details on its accessibility. We spent a lot of time talking to folks in the short north, talking to business owners, talking about how walkability has affected their business. And a lot of times they cite that, yes, they would absolutely love to have more accessible infrastructure. And if that comes in the form of a simple ramp that they could put in front of the building, that they would love to see that as well. And so it's also an ongoing partnership that we have with some short north businesses as well. Alrighty, the social impact. What does this actually cultivate into besides an end user product? We are promoting community engagement for folks who have been historically barred from going out into the community. Now, this includes disabled people who, historically, quite literally, have been barred from going outside, and so it's empowering them. It's also empowering folks who may not have the capital to own and operate a car to be able to get around more safely and perhaps get to bus stops more safely. We're also empowering 64,000 mobility impaired Columbusites to navigate more safely. For reference, OSU student body is about that size. And so that's essentially a whole zip code's worth of people who will be able to navigate and go out into the communities more confidently. And on a more monetary side, we're also focusing on $500 billion in spending power that disabled Americans have that's being unused because they just haven't been encouraged to go outside. All right, we can talk about business. We want to partner with local businesses. Now, we've talked with folks in the short north, and we have plans for an adopt a block wherein you can adopt a part of the map, and your name is associated with that, and in turn, you're tasked with maintaining that and reporting street level issues as you see in your block. Partnering with city planners, giving them an API with access to our dashboard, wherein they can see where issues are being reported. And finally, for our end users, we have a freemium model wherein we'll give them access to early access features. and they can run rampant with that. Current status is that we are still in active development. I'm very thankful to my small team of volunteer organizers who have, outside of their 9 to 5, they do try to pitch in what they can towards keeping this momentum going. I'd love to do more for them and perhaps hire other people out underneath. And so I'm also pursuing grant and angel investment to keep this thing alive and keep the wheels going. Oh, all right. Lastly, what have I learned? A lot. I've learned a whole lot from working on this, but let me try to distill that into 3 points that I've made for you. One is that the children yearn for walkable cities, and I think this comes best in the form of one of our user beta experiences, wherein I had someone come in. He was from the Kona Coffee community, and he was an able-bodied white man, someone who historically has a lot of privilege. And what I did was I put the beta in front of him. I encouraged him to go out into the community, take photos of sidewalks and sidewalk-related issues, things like that. And when he came back, he said, "This was a really interesting experience." He said, like, there's normally nothing really glamorous about taking pictures of sidewalks. I was only here kind of to support you, but when I went out, I realized, like, oh, like this stretch of sidewalk that I take every day, there's no ramp curb cut out there. And he said, like, I never realized that, and I wouldn't have realized that if it wasn't for Sidewalk Sidekick. And so that was very transformative because what that showed me was uh, someone started to read the world different because of Sidewalk Sidekick, because of software, and he's starting to consider, like, oh, like there are inequities in my community that I hadn't realized. And so software as a dialogue has also it's been a really important part of Sidewalk Sidekick and how I talk about it with other people. Because, like, yeah, it's an app, but it's also, it takes place in a bigger conversation about, what is equity in my community and who has access to move about freely and who doesn't. Community action is really powerful, leading from my last point, where I was also very beholden to my code and coffee community, who would come in and would help me with my beta tests and would offer uh, help on the more technical side of things and things like that. And it was all because they really they like to build software, but they also like to build software for an end user. And I think it's been a very eye-opening part of the many hats that I wear. Wherein I work on Sidewalk Sidekick, but I can also invite people who are very community oriented, who have skill sets that are valued in other domains, like in social enterprises. And I can really make use of that. I can encourage them to think about how does your skill set transfer to something that's not just your 9 to 5 work schedule. And I think I've been very grateful to to receive that, and I hope that I've done my part in helping them to see, like, oh, like the skill sets that I've acquired, they're transferable and they can exist in a multitude of different domains. And lastly, building software can mobilize communities. We've had a lot of fun talking to people and getting them to consider, like, how does a mobile navigation app cultivate and a really cool piece of community dialogue. And I'm just immensely grateful to be able to work on that and continue working on that. What should we do now? I don't know. Accessibility is it's a vast conversation. There's a lot of things to it, and truly, I'm tackling one itty bitty little part of it, which is sidewalks. But I can give you some resources about what you may want to read into next. A big part of what informed Sidewalk Psychic was me reading Walkable Cities by Jeff Speck. Fantastic, fantastic book about what goes into good pedestrian infrastructure, what's been the landscape in terms of cars, and how do we meet a place where cars and pedestrians can kind of coexist. Additionally, Louis Liu's scholarship on walkability in Columbus is really, really cool. I especially like his points that oftentimes, like, disabled people try to navigate in the areas where there are a lot of accessible inequities. And so there's sort of this reverse correlation wherein they're trying to navigate and they're encountering numerous obstacles, but it doesn't stop them. The obstacles don't stop them because at the end of the day, they still need to get from where they need to go. And so they're the most at risk for to be injured. And so what do we do to meet that? And then finally, this November, we have Link Us that's going on the ballot for a tax proposal to fund their bus rapid transit system. Link Us is a fantastic initiative for increasing foot traffic and increasing access to public infrastructure. And so I really encourage you all to read into that and vote. Vote this November. It's important. You can find links to all that if you scan this QR code right here. You also find our website up on there. But that's me. Thank you so much. I will open the floor for questions if you have any.
Well, before I jump into my rants and all the background, I'll let others ask questions first. So on my screen, Seema, you want to go first?
Yeah, I do. Actually, just give me a sec. I just want to write down the website. So, with this is really interesting. So, part of what I do, so I work in the healthcare industry. I do nothing with tech, but but I'm connected with Beanie, and I'm always open to looking at different avenues and things that we have, right? And one of my roles that at this company that I'm at is I really kind of help manage a lot of our DE&I space, and we have ERG groups that we sort I oversee, and one of them is um, kind of focuses on the disability side of things and making sure that we have disability accessibility for our staff members, right?
Mhm.
As a plan. That being said, so this is really interesting to me because our members. So in healthcare insurance. So we have members, obviously, right, that sign up for our Medicaid and Medicare, and we're always looking for different things that can be a benefit to them out in the space here in Columbus, right? So this is really interesting to me. This product that you have, and I may hook you, if you don't mind, I may connect you with my chair for the disability group, because we're always looking for informational things out there. One of the goals for our EIG groups is really getting our staff knowledgeable about the resources that we have out there, and then that then moves it on to our members, right?
Mhm.
So that's one thing, I just was kind of, my question is, how it sounds like you guys are just starting this project, or has it been going on for a while? And, is this just Columbus based, or are we looking at, is it also integrated in with, because again, I'm not in the IT space and understand all that IT stuff and how it works. Is it integrated just within utilizing the Google aspects also, or mapping aspects, so that, because our plan, we are all over Ohio, and so the people, the staff members that we're talking to, or would even consider presenting something like this, or letting them know, hey, there's this resource out there, they're all over, or is this focused more towards Columbus?
Right. Yeah. No.
Whew,
Thank
that
you
was
so much.
a lot of stuff, a lot of
No,
background
no,
there.
no. All fantastic. Thank you so
Yeah.
much. So, question about progress. Now, Sidewalk Sidekick, I'd say really took up steam for all of 2023. That's when we did our user tests, and it's also when we were really aggressive about trying to raise some capital. Since then, life kind of gets in the way, unfortunately, and we've had to kind of slow down. And so we are far less aggressive than we were last year. Now it is truly like in our off hours, we try to pitch in what we can.
Hmm.
Um, so we do have some like technical infrastructure that we've built on and we can put out in front of people still, but definitely not quite at like a full-fledged product that we could
Okay.
put like say in the app store or comfortably put in front of
Hmm.
a group of users without our supervision.
Right.
So definitely still working towards that. And
Okay.
God, I wish I could tell you like summer 2025,
No,
but
no, no,
even
that's fine.
even that.
Yeah.
But truly, as soon as I have a better metric for that, I'd love to put that out there because, yeah, it would just be so good to put this in front of people. Secondly,
Yeah.
it is Columbus based, just in the
Hmm.
interest of scaling correctly, because when
Sure.
you put maps in front of people, you get pinpoints from all over the world.
Mm.
So just for making our lives a little easier as we try to make this secure and sustainable, purely focusing on the Columbus area for now. Um,
Mhm.
how we want to do this is we want to roll this out metropolitan area by metropolitan area, wherein we have a bit more direct ties to their local regional transit committee, and we can have that dialogue there and make sure that what we're building is serving them. And so it's also for that reason as well. It's keeping in mind who are our partners in this project.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I think that's wonderful that you're already connecting with the cities, right? Because I think the engineers, the social, I guess, civic engineers, right? And just as people are planning out, and if folks know that this is out there, then hopefully they're looking at more of those things. I mean, I honestly wish Columbus was a lot more walkable and or transit friendly
Yeah.
than it is, and that has been a fight here forever.
Good.
I just don't understand why we can't get forward on it, but that's a whole separate conversation outside of this.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But no. Well, very nice. Very, very cool.
Thank
So that, I'll just kind of keep my eye on it and if we can, because I think there's a place for it, for people, for disabled folks that are out there, no matter what space it's in. So pretty cool. Thank you.
Thank you.
Robin?
I don't have any questions, but I think this is wonderful. I'm very impressed with how you've put this together, and this is a great presentation.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I try.
Lisa?
I'm here. No, that was really great. I didn't have any additional questions, but I definitely been checking out your webpage and scoping around a little bit. So
No,
thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Kdusan, are you still there?
Oop, you're muted.
Wiki?
Okay, sorry, I didn't realize I'm here. I thought it was a really well presented presentation, and it's just like the flow of the conversation was really catered to what can we do, how do we make the impact, how do we get involved and stay informed. So I think that was a great way of presenting the product and also raising awareness. So I loved it.
Thank you.
Awesome. So Noel, here's my rant and actual, story with Sidewalk.
Yes.
So actually the Sidewalk mapping project, you probably know this already, started in 2019 with I think it also came out of Give Back Hack, but there was an entire group, and I was involved with the downtown part of it in 2019 and 2020, because I just checked while you were talking and Seema's question when this gets started to see where my emails were coming from. And I stopped going to their meetings, I think when the pandemic started, because, and most of the meetings would be at either Root Insurance or somebody's, office space. So it was a big issue. I live in downtown Columbus.
Yeah.
And as you know, construction has been
Yeah.
a nightmare. But in addition to that, and this is where the rant comes in, our biggest issue are scooters, especially the rental scooters. And this has been such a bad issue because although technically they're supposed to ride on the streets, but they don't. Because then they'll get killed at any time. And so they then move to the sidewalks, and there is no way for them to park, as opposed to the e-bikes, which they have parking, and they just throw it around. And this has been such a big issue that politically we have done everything, going to the city council and getting it banned, because I think it's the worst thing for disability people, not only for people on wheelchairs, people who are, I live very close to the pilot dogs. This is for the people who are visually challenged. They get their pilot dogs from there, and it's a pilot dog training center. And the minute the e-scooters came into play in the city, because every e-scooter company and everybody will sell to the cities, city governments, by telling them this will solve the last mile problem. And you mentioned the last mile issue, and those who don't know what the last mile problem is, this is like, even if you set up the bus routes and everything else, you still need to get home from the bus stop. So how do you provide public transportation to complete that last mile, or from your office to the bus stop, right? Which is exactly what Noel was explaining, getting to Polaris, so this last mile problem is a big environmental public transportation issue. And every e-scooter company comes and convinces that this will solve the problem, but it doesn't.
No.
First of all, e-scooters are, as going back to the pilot dog's experience, I had a friend who was getting trained, and the minute she heard that Columbus was getting e-scooters, she said it's the worst thing because with bikes and just cycles or any other people or anything like that, you can hear. With e-scooters, blind people cannot hear until they're very close,
Right.
and it becomes so close that it's something to do with physics and aerodynamics. Don't ask me to explain, but that the noise doesn't come in till the last few seconds,
Yeah.
which makes the pilot dog and the person jump
Yeah.
to get out of the way. Because especially people who are riding cycles, they always say, I'm coming on your right. So there's some audio clues. So this is like very dangerous, and a lot of cities have banned it based on that. And we will talk offline, but we had a lot of conversations with City of Columbus about this issue. Robin is aware of my various rants of my spouse and myself about these scooters because they are injuring people. The number of times we'll see while walking in downtown where they've just thrown the e-scooters near the curb cuts,
Yeah.
right? Or in the middle, literally in the middle of the sidewalk. And we have a friend downtown who is on a wheelchair, and she just goes, I mean, these are heavy things. So if you're on your wheelchair and you try to push it out with your hand, it's very difficult to do that. And I hope, some of the mapping is picking up on some of this, like things. And what the city said is we don't have any data telling us that this is a problem for disabled people on wheelchairs. So we have a plan to sue the city because that's the only way, they will actually pay attention,
Okay.
to this issue.
Yeah.
So, and provide them with data. So I'm very interested in finding out how we can leverage your data to make it safer. And I again don't know if you guys are mapping the scooter and bikes and things that are strewn in the sidewalks because of these products, or if anybody's complaining about that.
Yes, I will co-sign on this. So just let me know when
Okay.
you're ready. Yeah, no, we try to keep you may remember from the demo I showed you where
Right.
you go through and you take a picture and then you can assign a corresponding tags. We try to keep those tags as broad as possible. One of them is an obstacle tag. When we ran our user test events, we did it in near OSU where there are a lot of scooters thrown about. And if anyone asks, like, how would you categorize this? I'd say it's an obstacle. So it certainly is something that we've been tracking and that we do have some data on. And so I'm also happy to relay what we have gathered there, if that'll be of use right now.
To the city. I mean, what I'll do is hook you up again. I mean, I can always go with you because I know all the people who make those decisions, right? Including the city attorney's office. We had long discussions, and they basically said, unless somebody sues, nobody's going to do anything about it.
All right.
Okay.
We have an action item.
We have an action item.
That's just sad that you have to get to that point, but that's the whole.
Yeah.
Anyway.
They want their receipts.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because the e-scooter companies are big lobbying groups here, to get that, and they're everywhere, especially downtown Ohio State, now in Linden area. I mean, it does solve problem unless they're free or, we have a lane for them. It is not going to work, you know?
Right.
And it is expensive because I had a nephew come by. You guys ride e-scooters? By any chance, any of you? I mean, my nephew came by and he's 16 years old and he just wanted to do it, right? Get away from the whole family and be on his own. And he rode for like every 10 minutes, it was $5.
Oh, that's a lot.
So I mean, maybe after 10 o'clock, they give some discounts, and maybe it has gone down. This was, a few years ago. And I thought that was pretty expensive. That's like, getting, I mean, in the old times, Uber, I mean, it's no longer that cheap, but,
I think that also encourages more reckless driving because you're trying to maximize, how much area you
right.
can cover.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the number of times my spouse has been hit by these scooters,
Yeah.
Because they don't, you can, even people who can hear, you do not know, they never follow the same etiquette
Etiquette that everybody else
as
does,
the
right?
as
Yeah.
the people on cycle do,
Cyclists. Yeah.
right.
Yeah. Oh yeah, my son when he was on campus, that's one of the biggest complaints. He's like, I hate being on campus walking because I'm constantly being run into by scooters. He's
Yeah.
like, it's amazing I'm still alive. That's what he says to me all the time. I'm
Right.
like, okay,
I
nice.
mean, and all
Yeah.
the joyriding people do,
Ugh,
like
yeah.
2 or 3 of them. So anyway, so it's a whole digression, but but it is like, that was my first awareness of the sidewalk issue
Right.
for disabled people, and it really didn't, it was not just construction, it was
Yeah.
these obstacles,
Hmm. Yeah.
which is, me and you can just walk and pick it up and throw it on the grass or somewhere else, I mean, I literally do that
Yeah.
when I'm downtown because I'm so aware of it. My awareness level for disabled people in wheelchair is so high right now, so for the last few years because of that. So this is a great project. I would love to hear more
Yeah.
about your data that you're gathering. I'm I'm happy to see that it became an app. And is this app available on all platforms or not?
It will be. We're working on that right now. So far, it's just been
Okay.
closed beta tests where we relay it locally. But
Oh, okay. Okay.
Mhm.
But do you have but to Seema's question, one quick technical question, follow up is that is it connected to Waze
Ooh,
in any way?
not
Like, is
not
it
connected,
linked as an app?
not connected to Waze, purely just because Waze has had an interest in, I think it's entirely on car-centric travel. There's nothing in the
Okay.
way of pedestrian travel there. And so
Okay.
we've taken a lot of inspiration there. More or less just transposed the Waze model, but for walking around, because what they've done has been really, really good for car travel. They have a whole system to hook up with the city as well.
Right.
Katie, do you have a question?
And yeah, and so the thing is, if it's not connected to Waze, I mean, I know a lot of the mobility data, platform, like all the open data sources and things like that, the mapping data, how you're pulling it in. Um, I do know that on a sidewalk, you have to have far more decimal points
Yes. Hmm?
on your GPS,
Yes.
in order to get to that level,
Hmm?
and that requires a lot of storage issues. um, and cloud, data sets and everything else. I'm just trying to make it more technical, Seema. After all, this is for the technical people. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, so those, I'm sure, are some of the challenges that you're facing too, because of, the
Yes.
level of
Yeah.
decimal points you need on
Certainly.
every mapping thing. So,
Absolutely. Yeah. Fundamentally, all we're doing is gathering geolocations on sidewalks. And
correct.
we're thankful that like this thing in everyone's pockets is really, really good at gathering geolocations. I think we're up to like 10,000 of a
Okay.
decimal point off of where people report issues. And so really cool that we have access to that in our pockets. But there is a logistical issue of once we put this out there and we have a bunch of people reporting how many issues hourly, daily. How do we
Right.
store all that? How do you make it
So,
scalable? Hmm?
right. And to explain to Robin and Seema and everybody else here, with respect to the decimal point issue, which a nerd like me find very interesting. If you think about when you're driving and you're using the maps, that's only longitude and latitude. That's what your GPS code is. And that only goes typically to 4 decimal points. So it'll say, 23 degrees, point, like, I don't know, 4.679 radians on the latitude, right? And that's the only information it keeps on updating as you're driving, 4 decimal points. For a sidewalk, you pretty much have to get to almost 8 decimal points. That's a lot of updates because now you have to store all those 8 decimal points of radians, right? To that level, because then it's also slower because you're walking, So it just unbelievable amount of information. And the only reason I know all this stuff, crazy stuff, is because when we went to the city, the e-bikes company came and said, oh, we are going to geo-block, which means we'll block off certain areas so our scooters won't work in those areas. But they didn't change, so they didn't block the roads. They said we'll block the sidewalks, but they didn't update the decimal points. So it just doesn't work because you
Right.
cannot do geo-blocking on the road.
Yeah.
So yeah. Anyway, I digressed, which I do. This was a great talk. I
Yeah.
really appreciate Noel. Very informative.
Thank you.
And I kept this sidewalksidekick.com up for a while. We'll also, send it out to other people who have, and everybody here registered here to join. And thank you for all the information on Color Coded Labs. If you wanted to send me, a little blurb about the next cohort, like the application, or just tag us on the LinkedIn page and put that information in as a post.
We
So
can do
then
that.
that would be the fastest way, to send it out.
One input I was going to make earlier, sorry, I'll make it quick, but is there a way maybe, and you guys can talk about this offline, but I might not be there for that conversation, like add that into a flow or into your filtering when people are logging in obstructions, saying like scooters are in specific places. Maybe that could separate the data so that you can utilize that more from just
Absolutely.
regular obstructions. It might help in your guys' case. And then overall, just thank you again for this platform and everything that everyone's doing to like provide social impact, because it's platforms like this and solutions like this with Noel that makes us the tech hub, not just these bigger companies that are coming in and investing, but also us putting in the work to like create these solutions and make our little corner of the world nicer.
We'll make it better. We'll make it better. We have to. We have no choice.
One sidewalk at a time.
One sidewalk at a time.
That should be your tagline.
Yes.
Pretty good.
Thank you, Noel. This
Thank
was
you.
wonderful. Thank you all for
Perfect.
attending. This is great.
Right.